Hi guys, welcome back to our channel, LittleLee and Rose. My name is Summer Noel. Today we're going to do the hang method applying chunky glitter. I've been promising this video to you guys for a while, and so let's dive right in. Hang method is when you're using just a tiny amount of epoxy to apply glitter or put a top coat on. You can reference our other video for the top coat version. This is going to be applying glitter. We're going to be applying it chunky glitter. It's my favorite way to apply chunky glitter. One is it gives a very strong permanent bond. You won't have any fallout from this one. Once that glitter is stuck down to that epoxy and that epoxy is cured up holding that glitter is in place. It's a great firm permanent way of applying the glitter. You still obviously do top coats of epoxy over the top to get a nice smooth surface, but to apply your glitter, this is an excellent way. Now, I started doing this because I had little bits of leftover epoxy from other projects that I hated throwing away. I'm very frugal when it comes to my epoxy. And when I came into the world of tumblers, there was not a lot of people doing them, and the way that it was being done was with Mod Podge. And I found Mod Podge to not be very consistent, and I struggled. And so one day I decided, I was like, well, epoxy isn't an adhesive, let's try it. And so I just used the last little bits, and it came out beautifully, and I have been using epoxy to apply my chunky glitters ever since. So what we're going to do here, normally I would take the cup and sit it on end, and we would put the epoxy on the butt of the cup and work it down. However, this cup I'm going to tape off the top and the bottom. You can see my fingerprints are all over this. Our epoxy is amazing. It doesn't matter that there's fingerprints on it from sanding and such. But we're going to apply this epoxy down just the center part. It's still the same method. We're going to be pulling the epoxy from one end to the other. We're just not going from the butt to the neck. We are just going down the center piece. So I'm going to apply the epoxy. It takes only about 3 grams to do a 20-ounce tumbler. If you are new to doing this method, you may need about 5 grams, a little bit more, just because it does take practice and to get this method down. But once you get it, it's a great option. So we're going to take the tumbler and we're going to take this little bit of epoxy. I'm going to kind of dab it all the way around the cup. The reason I'm going to do that is just make it easy to maneuver this epoxy into different locations on the cup. And again, if it's easy to move your epoxy, so if it's easy to maneuver your epoxy up and down the cup, like if you can take your finger and slide and go all the way from one end to the other and have epoxy on your finger and moving along that cup, you have way too much epoxy. You want this to be an extremely thin coat of epoxy. You should have to work and do a repetitive motion, pushing that epoxy down the cup and around the cup to get your thin coat. If you use too much epoxy, there is repercussions because we are going to hang this up to dry. We are not going to put this on our turner. This is the purpose of using very little epoxy, is to save on money and not use as much of as epoxy as you would on a regular coating. And so the goal is to use very little, just enough to get like an adhesive surface on that cup and apply your glitter. So here we go. You can see this is just being consistent pressure, firm pressure, and just continuing to push that epoxy into the spaces that I need it. If you feel like you've got too much epoxy on your cup, don't fret. You can just take a silicone tool and scrape some off. Because if you put too much epoxy on your cup, when you hang it up to dry and cure with that glitter on, it's going to move. It's going to slink down your cup. It's going to take your glitter with it. And you're going to have like drippy looking glitter going down your cup. And that's never pretty. So you can see here, I actually use a little bit too much. So let me show you what I'm going to do to remove some of it. This is a silicone brush. We have them on our website. It's a very handy tool for doing the hang method. You just take it and you can actually scrape any excess off the cup. Clean it off in a brush. And just continue around the cup. But again, like I said, it takes literally 2 to 3 grams. I probably put about 4 to 5 on here. And so I'm just scraping a little bit off. It's a very small amount here. Using a baby wipe. All right, that's probably good. Re-smooth that surface. Make sure we don't have any spots that have no epoxy. They look pretty good. All right, so then we're going to just lay our glitter right down on top of this. I'm using a chameleon glitter. I worked directly onto a stainless steel base. I didn't base paint anything because I know that this chameleon glitter gives really good, excellent coverage. And the silver backing is actually a good backdrop for it. And no need to waste any spray paint because it's going to get really good coverage. Hang Method gives amazing coverage because it's so sticky and tacky and kind of fluid. It really just grips onto that glitter. This is Jade. He's part of our chameleon collection. I'm catching it on a piece of parchment paper so we don't have any waste. You can see it has that chameleon vibe where it shifts from the green to the pink. Now, you do not want a burrito wrap when you have worked on your Hang Method base because you can the base is still real slippery and slick because it is a fluid under there. You're going to just take and press down, use a gloved hand. Always when working with epoxy, please make sure you wear your proper PPE. I am wearing a chemical respirator for safety, and I am working with nitrile gloves while I'm working with my epoxy. Then we're just going to take this and we're going to press that glitter down. That's going to lay that glitter down nice and flat onto that epoxy. If you see any areas that look like maybe you missed it when you were shaking the glitter out, I can see I didn't get quite at the top here. Just go back through and add a little bit more. Just don't stress. That epoxy, you have plenty of time to work because epoxy takes hours to cure. So you are not in a rush. Fill in all those gaps, get it all nice pressed flat. Pressing it down flat makes it much easier for the next layer of epoxy to cover that glitter. You don't have to make it as thick because your glitter is laid down nice and flat. And so it's much easier to cover. So once you have this layer completely laid down flat, we're going to go ahead and pull our tape to make sure our edges are nice and crisp. I'm going to make this tumbler for my kids. That's why I am doing the taped off top and bottom. That way if they drop it, it's not going to crash down onto the epoxy. And it's a little bit more durable for a kid's cup. So this is going to be the start. Now this is going to get just put on a drying rack and it will cure up for about 6 hours. Then you can go in and add your next layer of epoxy. All right, I hope that helped you guys out a little bit with the Hang Method and applying that chunky glitter. It is a question I get asked quite a bit in a Facebook group. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Just search LittleLee and Rose. LittleLee and Rose is on Facebook on a page and also a Facebook group. You can join and ask any questions you want, interactive. We play games, give away prizes. I go live. It's a great experience, a really small community of like-minded crafters. Come get inspired and have a lot of fun. All right, we'll see you guys on the next tutorial. Bye, guys.